Hi guys, Jangro here, and welcome to Valhelsia Enhanced Vanilla Episode 5 Hardcore Playthrough. In this episode, we deal with our resource problems and set up a whole sorting system, an entire warehouse using the pipe mod. So stay tuned for that. Also, at the end of the video, there's some outtakes featuring a crazy new mob added by the Artifality mod. It's pretty crazy, so stick around for that. And stay tuned while we jump into a recap and then the pipe mod. So as we do, let's do a quick recap of what we've been doing since the last episode. Pretty much all my time has been spent setting up this villager trading hall. We've got a lot of villagers here. We brought them all from upstairs, but focusing on the best trades, which is clay and stone with the mason. He's amazing. We get all that clay for free from the copper pans, and we're going to expand heavily on our copper pans and get all the clay we could possibly sell. We've got a lot of librarians. Obviously, we need their enchantments. They're not great for XP, but we need to enchant our tools. The Fletchers, again, we talked about them before. They buy sticks, so we can get sticks all day long from our tree farm. What you might not know about, though, is the butcher. And the butcher's great, not only because he buys all the meat, so instead of cooking it and wasting it because we'll never eat it all, but they buy berries. The master butcher buys sweet berries. So like 10 for an emerald. So that is a ton of trades, which means a ton of XP. And we built a berry farm. Now this is our berry farm. Since we talked about that, let's just take a quick look. I set up this terraced berry farm, and the berries just grow so fast. And we're going to expand over to the right with this. But just with this little bit, we get quickly 2.5 stacks or so of berries each time, and they grow so fast. So we've just got endless berries. Before we go back with those to trade them in, let's just take a quick look at our tree farm. We've got a diamond axe now, and combined with the pulsar, we can quickly cut all these trees, pick them up. It takes longer to, as you can see, chop down a tree with a diamond axe. That's because it's taking the time that it would take to cut all those logs. So we got to control whole tree cutting. Now, while we wait for the saplings to fall, we're going to make paper out of bark. And by putting the logs in our offhand and our axe in our regular hand, just kind of hold down right click, and this will just automatically strip all these logs, put the bark in our inventory, which we can then turn into paper. And that paper, we're going to make books. We can trade the paper with the librarians, and obviously the books we're going to use. Here's a quick look at our tree farm. We built that frame around there with the slabs on top so that mobs can't spawn, and they prevent the trees from growing too tall. So back up into the trading hall. We'll trade our berries with the butcher. And as you can see, we have way more berries available to us than one butcher can handle. So we're going to need to go make another one. So we'll throw the carrots at these two that we have down here in our breeding room, and they'll make another baby. There, take all the carrots. And we need to set up a bed for this baby. There'll be no baby born if there's no bed available. So there's its bed, and we'll let those guys do their thing. When the baby's born, it'll go into its bed to sleep eventually, and we'll lock it in there and give it a smoker. Just a couple design things. This gap is important so the XP can come out. If it's too blocked off, the XP won't flow out. And we also want the villagers to be able to see each other. So we break the blocks between them so that they can talk. There's a villager rumor mill that we want them to be able to talk and say good things about us and make our trade prices lower. And one more quick thing, here's an enhancement to some of these mob grinders. So you can't do this with chickens because chickens can squeeze out of a half of a space, but if you replace the dispenser with a feeding trough for the pigs, sheep, and cows, like this, then you don't have to do the stand over them and feed them thing. So like this, take the water out of there, break this, replace that with a feeding trough, and now the cows will breed on their own. We just have to be around to catch their XP. That's kind of the downside to this solution. There. The XP is going to come up here. and then they'll just keep eating and dying, and we'll get all their drops. This doesn't work with chickens. Initially, I thought of that and tested only with chickens and decided that all baby animals could escape, but I was wrong. Much thanks to someone on the Valhelsia Discord, Hussein, for that idea. Appreciate it. Okay, so our inventory situation, our kind of resources, sorting, storage is pretty dire. I've set up a bit of a warehouse room in here. It needs to be lit up better. I've also stole a waystone from a village nearby. We're gonna move everything into there. We're gonna also, instead of trying to deal with all these separate places where we're gathering resources, like all this stuff, we also don't need all this cooked food anymore. And it's not a super efficient way to get XP at this point. So we're gonna dismantle most of this stuff, move it all into the warehouse. We'll keep the grinders in place, but we're going to use the pipe mod to pipe all of the resources into this warehouse. And you'll see how we're going to do that in a second. So we're going to set up a warehouse in here. We'll run the sorting system all the way around and end up with the overflow on this side. This is how I like to set up sorting systems. It start with the overflow and let everything accumulate there and deal with the things that pile up. So we'll put the input chest over on this side and run pipe from the pipe mod around the wall. So of course, first we need to grab some item pipes, which are made with 6 iron in one chest to get 6 pipes. So it's 1 iron per pipe instead of 5 for a hopper. So it's much cheaper than hoppers. We're going to grab enough, hopefully, to get us all the way around the room. And we'll start with the input chest, run the item pipes around the wall. We're going to leave a gap of a 1 block gap so we can have space to work behind it. And we'll run this stuff into the overflow chest. Now, even though we've already put some items in the input chest, nothing's going to flow without a servo, which is made with some hopper, iron, nuggets, and redstone. And the servo acts as kind of the input into the network. And you got to kind of squeeze it in between the chest and the first pipe, which is easier without the chest there. But all the stuff that you see in here is going to flow out of the chest thanks to the servo, which will put things into the network, and it will flow all the way around and into the overflow chest. Now, the servo is kind of the brains of the operation, and it has some configuration. It has filters. You can put things in here like this cobble, and now nothing will come into the network other than cobble, even though there's other things in the chest. We take the cobble out, and the things will start to move again. And now you can see these cobblestone flowing around and entering the output chest. There's no servo needed. You can just connect the chest directly to a pipe, and pipe will push things into it, but you need a servo to pull things in. Now, something else to keep in mind is if there are multiple places for things to go, by default, they will go to the very first available spot. Now, that decision is made when something enters the network through the servo. If there's no place for items to go, they won't go anywhere at all. So you can see these things are going into the first available spot, which is this chest. If we remove this chest, the things that were already in the network are kind of stuck there for a second, but then they'll move to the next chest, and if that was full, things would go to the next one. Now we can configure the servo to do round robin instead of the first available, and a round robin will split the items between all of the different possible locations. So there's 3 chests, which is going to divide the cobblestone in this case evenly into those 3 places. And this is the basic setup of a pipe network. We got servos pulling stuff in, chests and things pull things out, and this is going to form the basis of our sorting system. So we've brought a bunch of chests in here from everywhere else that we're going to throw into our sorter, and we need to set our overflow up so that all these chests have pipes connected. So we're going to connect the pipes to each of these, and we're going to do it in a way that there's only one direction that the items can flow. So if we put a pipe right here, there's a shortcut between that first 2. And what we want to do is make sure that the items flow into the filled chest first and into the empty chest later, so that they don't have a chance to like duplicate and spread out across the chest and keep things a little more efficient. So by using the wrench, we can block connections on the side of it. So you can see it says block north, which is this side that I'm clicking on. And we didn't want to block that top one. So let's set that back. And now if we connect pipes to these other chests, you'll see that there's no connection in the bottom two. So the items will flow from into the first chest in a consistent order. So the next thing we're going to do is set up a kind of a standard multi-item sorter. And if you played vanilla Minecraft and look at videos by, Waddles or Mumbo Jumbo, they set up multi-item sorting with hoppers and dropper elevators that move items around, and they fill into chests that are pre-filled with at least one item. And we can do that exact same thing here. So we can fill these chests up with whatever we want to store in them. But first we need to put pipes in the back. And we're going to do the same thing and eliminate shortcuts. And again, this isn't strictly necessary, but it makes things a little bit easier when you can tell like what the farthest chest is away. So if we had an empty chest nearby and there was a shortcut here, things might go to the empty chest instead of flowing up high into one of the chests that has items in it. That's all we're doing here. So now let's fill these chests up with some individual items. So if we fill every slot in this chest with cobblestone, this becomes a cobble chest because that's the only thing that can go in there. This next one will make a stone bricks chest. And again, we fill up every slot with that. We could put multiple different items in here as well. So now these first two chests here will only accept cobble and stone bricks. Oh, because our servo is set up to round robin, it is distributing that cobblestone into multiple chests. So we set that back to first available. And now the cobble goes into the first available chest, which is this one that accepts cobble. Now we're going to see the stone brick come out, and it will go into the chest, the first available chest, which is the one that is full of stone brick that has extra space. And we have a piece of andesite behind that, and we'll see that come out in a second, and that will go into the first available chest for it, which is this empty chest up top. So you see, you definitely don't want to use round robin when you're doing sorting like this. Round robin is great for other purposes. We'll be doing a smelter later with that. So we'll make this chest redstone because why not? And we'll make this chest a cobbled deep slate chest. Now next, let's set up some kind of bulk storage. And again, if you've watched vanilla sorting videos, this is a technique that's done with hoppers and comparators and repeaters that with some kind of filler blocks, you put 22 of them into the hopper. We don't need to do that here. We have these crude storage units that will only accept the item that's in them. So this is a very easy thing to set up. So we've got 6 here, and we'll put pipes on them. And again, strictly not necessary, but I like to configure the pipes so that there's not a whole lot of shortcuts. It just makes things easier to see how far things are apart from each other. Things do get a little tricky when you change one, another one might change, but clicking around with that wrench, you can get things pretty much the way you want them. And I will do a test with some planks, which aren't going to go into any of these things because we did not configure these storage units to accept planks with an input. So it's just going to flow right on by it, but we can see that we've got our pipe path set up well. So we're going to use these storage units to replace the ones that are out here on our copper pan setup. So let's just go grab some of these things, the clay and the gravel and emerald, sand, gold nuggets, iron nuggets. Well, let's not do glass and bricks for now. And we're going to reroute these copper pans here eventually. But let's get them set up. So put the iron nuggets, gold nuggets, and the different things into these storage units. And like we do with all storage units, we lock them. We configure the input to be auto input. And we did that for all of them. Now let's put some gravel in here, move the gold nuggets over. And now we can see the gold coming out and going into the top one where gold nuggets are configured. And here comes some gravel. And we can see the gravel going into that bottom right crude storage unit. And again, these are for our copper pans. We'll pipe that into the system, but we're going to have a whole bunch of these all around the room. Okay, last, let's set up another item sorter system, but using servos as filters. So we're going to set up 3 chests here, and getting the servos configured properly is a little bit tricky. And since we're working in close quarters here, we're going to block the connection to these pipes so that the pipes don't connect and we can stick the servos on there. We need to have the 3 pipes going into the chests and servos pulling from the big long main pipe into these chests. And with the wrench, we need to disconnect these 3 so that they're not connected together. And now each servo is connected uniquely to a chest. We're going to use each of these 3 servos as filters, which are going to pull items that we specify out of the main pipe flow. And we just need to reconnect those pipes again. So unblocking those connections. And now we need to set up the filtering. This first, don't hit it with a wrench. This first filter, we're going to set up with Tech Reborn items and just make everything Tech Reborn go into this chest. So we're going to match all from represented mods and just put anything from Tech Reborn in this filter. In this case, we're going to put a sapphire in there. So now anything from Tech Reborn will go into that chest. This chest, we're going to make an applied energistics. Likewise, just put some quartz in there, match to the mod. In this last one, we're going to put specific items in here. So instead of filling the chest with the items, we can fill the filter with the items. And only these 5 things, these copper things, will make this kind of a copper chest. We'll add some more copper things to it as we find them. So any of those 5 things are just going to get sorted into that chest. All right, now let's just fill up our input chest with a bunch of stuff from Tech Reborn, applied energistics, some copper stuff, and just some regular stuff. And let's just watch what happens. These are Tech Reborn tin. So these are going to go into the Tech Reborn chest. Now here comes some wood planks. These aren't configured to go into any of these things. So they're just going to flow right by and head into the overflow. There's some different stuff coming. My sleeping bag and a bow goes on by. The Certus quartz, because it's applied energistics, goes into the middle chest. Here comes some storage units and some sapphire. Those are going to go into the Tech Reborn chest. So we can see all of this stuff is working as planned. Finally, here comes some copper. We'll just wait for this stuff to come through and we'll make sure copper goes into the copper chest. Perfect. And you see iron going by and the copper pan goes into the copper chest. And we take a look in the copper chest, we can see just copper stuff went in there. And quartz went into the applied energistics, and Tech Reborn items all went into the Tech Reborn chest. So everything's working as we'd hoped. We're going to surround the room with all these different modules, and anything that doesn't get sorted goes into the overflow chest, which we can grab and run back through the system again. So the last thing we're going to set up is a kind of a super smelter to take things selectively out of the network using the same filtering we just did on these 3 chests to pull smeltable items like ores out of the flow and pull them into a smelter and send them back into the system. So we're going to do this right here in the process before the Tech Reborn chest in case we want to smelt Tech Reborn ores. And we're going to pull coal out on right here as well. So we've got these 2 pipes set up with servos on them. And then we connect these pipes into the network like that. And this is going to be the coal. And over here is going to be the smeltables. So now we're going to have the smelters run along this line. And we'll have a pipe go down here. And the output is going to go back into the sorting system. And we'll run these pipes down here. This is where the furnaces are going to go. And we need servos at the bottom of every furnace to pull the items out of the furnaces. And so we'll put furnaces on top of each servo. We'll have them facing this way just so we can see that they're on, but we'll need to run the coal around the back. So we've got 6 furnaces. We need to run this pipe around the back where the coal inputs into the furnaces. And we have the pipe running around behind the furnaces where the coal input goes, and we made sure that the coal pipe did not interact with the output pipe with the wrench. Now here we're going to put the input for the top of the furnaces, which is the ores. If we could just get up here, we're just a little too short. Okay, now we're going to run pipes across the top of the furnaces. They'll just automatically input into the tops, connect it to that input pipe. Okay, so I learned something today, which is when you have a servo pulling out of a pipe network that is fed by another servo, that they don't interact well. And the round robin on the second servo doesn't work properly. Just the filtering does. So if we put a chest in between as a buffer, then the servo that comes out of the chest can be set to round robin, and it will cause the items to distribute between all of the, in this case, smelters. We're going to do the same thing on the coal. Put a chest here, add a servo after the chest, like that. And so now the input servo on that chest is filtered to coal, and the output servo on that chest is set to round robin. Same thing with the ores chest. So let's put some copper and coal into the system here and watch what happens. So this first servo that's pulling from the pipe is filtered for copper ore. The servo that pulls out of the chest is set to round robin. And you can see it's sending round robining the ore to all the smelters. This servo we set to round robin and has already coal set on the input filter. And now the coal is going to be distributed evenly to all the smelters. Excellent. And now we can just watch it work. Put a little bit more copper in here. The cooked copper is coming out. It's going to flow past the smelting system and go into the copper chest, while the copper ingots, the raw copper, goes into the super smelter. Okay, let's wrap up this episode. We've got all of the mob grinders reconfigured to send all their drops into kind of our storage network. So you can see what we did. We've got, these are all the grinders above us. I have the hoppers. I didn't want to remove the hoppers because the animals are sitting on them and that would make a mess. Fortunately, the servos pull from hoppers if the hoppers are not going into anything. So that was an easy fix. So I've got a servo under each hopper and it runs this pipe along here. I connected it to the chest that pulls from the copper pans just to put a buffer in there. So it doesn't have to think so hard. I think if it was connected directly to this pipe, it would have to look all the way through the network to find where to send stuff. So a buffer doesn't hurt. Once stuff comes out of that buffer chest, then it decides where to go. So now here's our warehouse. All the things have been moved from the mob grinders. We have just way too many eggs than we know what to do with. I'm going to move these chests. These were kind of for an example. I'm going to move those over on this side and make this entire surface here crude storage units for bulk storage. And to operate these things, we just put some hay in that one. The chickens are the old way. The pigs, we give them carrots. And the sheep over here, we give wheat. Now they're all dying and breeding. And if we grab the XP with a mending tool, this is a great way to mend tools. That's mending my axe right now. Now, if we run back down inside, we should see all of their drops come flowing through. Yep, here it is. Here's all the raw meat, which we are going to sell to the butcher for more XP. So this is fantastic. All right, I think we're going to end the episode there. This was a pretty big project, setting up this warehouse, bigger than I expected it to be. And I hope that this all made sense, and the pipes mod is pretty cool. This is all going to become obsolete as soon as we get to applied energistics. But for early game, you just can't beat this sorting system. It's really great. And it does everything that, the vanilla sorting systems do with hoppers and redstone. So thanks for watching. Please subscribe and like and leave a comment. Let me know what you think, and we'll see you next time. What in the world is this zombie? Has he got thorns? I don't understand. Oh. What did he drop? The Artifality mod apparently creates these crystal-infused zombies. Oh, jeez. Man, he was fast. Oh. Yeah.